Hey everyone, welcome back to Supporting Physician Spouses. I'm Katie.
And I'm Kendra. We're so glad you're here. If you've been walking with us through this series, you know we've been digging into the habits that make us feel like ourselves again. But before we dive into today's topic, let's take a quick moment to check in. So, Katie, what's been going on in your world this week?
Yeah, this week is our last week of school. So, all of the fun end of year celebrations. Our kids' school does a fun tradition around birthdays, but both of my elementary age kids have summer birthdays. So, we got to sneak it in yesterday. That was really special, and their classmates give compliments and they share memories from the school year. And so, just the end of school year vibes where you feel really grateful and a little bit of grief that the year is ending, but mostly gratitude. And then next week, I get to take the kids on our first summer road trip. We're going to go visit family in Utah. We did this last summer, and I thought it was going to be impossible to do alone, but it actually went quite well. So I feel less nervous this year and really excited. What about you?
Mine is also birthday related. We had our youngest daughter, she turned 9 in May. May was just busy. We had lots of travel, lots of things we were doing, and my daughter was graduating. It was just, there was a lot going on. And so we finally had her birthday party a month late. So for our listeners, we're recording this like the middle of June, and we had her birthday party a whole month after her birthday. I didn't want to do it at the house, and she'd been begging to go play with her friends at a trampoline park. And so we had her birthday at Urban Air. And it was like kids, and they jumped and had a great time, and I didn't have to clean the house or decorate or do anything. It was absolutely wonder again. So I feel like I did it. Oh,
Well
but
done.
I should also add, and I think most of our listeners will relate to this, her dad was not at her birthday party. He was on call the day before, and we always know what the risk is. And her birthday party was like 10 to 12, so I knew that that was gonna. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
I
Cherry on
know.
top.
All right. Oh, I know. That's
Call.
just what it is, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, should we get into today's conversation?
Yes, please.
We've covered a lot, specifically what habits have supported our well being, but now we're going to take some time and talk about the big how. And it starts with a big question. Who do you believe you are?
Yeah, this is hard, and this reminds me of the sessions we've had together, Kendra, where you start to ask questions, and I've never asked myself this before. I don't know how to answer it, but
Mm-hmm.
identity really does shape everything. It shapes our habits, our choices, our resilience, the way we work our way through things, and it all grows from who we think we are. So today we're going to try to unpack how we reclaim and redefine our identities in the season where it's really easy to lose it. I am going to be honest, it's so easy to lose my own identity. I feel like, I don't know, how many years am I into this journey? At least 8. I've mentioned this before, but with the addition of growing a family at the same time as so many transitions, supporting my husband through this journey, sometimes it feels easier to lose myself in the journey in order to help our whole family, but especially him, succeed.
So I think you noticing that, it's like, yeah, sometimes it is easier to lose yourself, but that is really just one of the coping strategies that us has have used because it kind of removes like who wants to be backup. I love kind of this phrase, and it's one that comes up constantly. It's like I'm just orbiting around somebody else's life. Like this isn't
Mm,
mine. There's somebody else, and I'm just like this accessory to this life that doesn't really belong to me. Like I'm just an
yeah.
attachment to this. And when you're married to someone who's, in training and that their goals are so demanding and time consuming, it's really easy to your life just revolves around supporting them. And it's not intentional. I don't think any of us go into that with that expectation. I'm just going to orbit his. Like that's not the way it
Mm,
works, but it happens. And then one day you wake up and you realize, I'm not even sure who I am outside of this role because it becomes just so all encompassing, this supporting and making sure the world runs for this person.
Right. That really takes us back to what we've been talking about for the past few episodes, all of these habits. How are our physical self care habits, as well as our emotional, social, spiritual habits, right? And what are we doing to let those habits become our new identity? That is the real roadblock. How many of us have picked up a self help book and been really inspired by it and even tried to implement some of the new strategies in our own life? There's a difference between doing something new and then becoming something new. For example, we can have the goal to run a marathon, print off the training schedule off active.com, and then train for that race, but we don't really become runners as a result. And, maybe we haven't even run for years beforehand. So that's really our challenge. How are we becoming something due to these new ways that we're taking care of ourselves?
Okay, that's really interesting that you chose, I'm going to run a marathon, but you haven't ran in 8 years because I actually did that. As I know, how fun is that? I had never been a runner, and then about the time I was 28, I decided as like a form of therapy, it was kind of a particularly tough time. I was going to run a marathon. And my friend had talked me into running it, and I thought, I'm in good shape. Like, I'm relatively pretty good. Let's just say that. When you're 28 and you haven't had any children yet, your body feels pretty good. And so I thought, for sure, I am up to this challenge. And so we had started running, and I, was from the training schedule that you print off. And I was
Hmm.
doing all of the things, and I was running with my friend. And there were a couple of long runs that I wasn't able to, but I was determined. I was like, yeah, I want to be a marathon runner. Like, how hard can it be?
Hmm.
And the race finally came, and Cache Valley, so Logan
Oh.
area. Gorgeous. It was the top of Utah marathon. Amazing. Absolutely beautiful. And I'm running, and people are running by me, and they keep running by me. And pretty soon I'm like running by myself. And at about mile 12, I noticed that like the water people are leaving, and medics, they're all leaving, they're packing up. And there were a couple of other people. We just kind of stopped to walk and decided, this is bad. Like, we should probably just hitch a ride to the finish line because I don't think we're going to make it. And even if we do, there's going to be nobody out here to support us.
Oh no.
So my point in sharing that particular story is that in that moment, I knew what I wanted to be. I wanted to be someone who ran a marathon, but I hadn't done all of the work prior to that to actually change my identity into being a
Hmm.
runner. It was
Hmm.
more of checking off the
Yeah.
miles, checking off, did I follow all of the training schedule as best as I could, thinking that
Hmm.
that is what would make me a marathon runner. And that's actually
Hmm.
not what makes somebody a marathon runner. And it's like any other outcome goal that we want. The way that you achieve it is by becoming that every day. So you have to really change your identity to be, I am someone who runs marathons. And as someone who runs marathons, what are the things that I do every day? And that extends beyond running.
Hmm.
So even going back to our, self-care habits, am I getting enough sleep so I can support my body while I run? Am I giving it the right food, the right nutrition? Am I putting the right things into my body so that when I ask it to run a marathon, it is ready to respond because that's who I am, not what I did or what I do. So,
Yeah.
this is just a really small example that, you know, you have to become somebody new. You have to take on that entire identity to make that transition happen.
Mm.
Makes sense. There is a
Hmm.
distinction
Hmm.
between just getting it done and really transforming yourself into somebody who's capable of doing.
This reminds me of living in a values driven life, remembering that sometimes we may not be changing behavior because whatever outcome we're hoping for doesn't fully align with our values. Like Kendra, you're running this marathon, part of you wasn't fully bought in on that. Or maybe there was this peer pressure to get into marathon running. Like their habits for me were sometimes I want to be a clean eater, right? And I just fuel myself with nutritious food always. But then there's a real part of me who leans into life is kind of short. And I love the sweetness that some beautiful, delicious dessert like foods bring into my life. And that's more of my value. So as we are looking to shift in our identity or really step into an identity that we've always wanted to live into, really checking ourselves to make sure that it is aligned with the things that you value deep down.
I had an aunt once tell me that she wanted to be a nurse. Like the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
idea of being a nurse sounded really good to her, but the idea of going to school and learning and doing all of the things that you had to do to be a nurse, she wasn't really in it. She didn't really want that.
Right, right.
And so I think it's the process of learning to be honest with yourself. And I think that's what you were saying about your ice cream. It's like, yes, I want to be that person, but then I also want to have some flexibility. And when
Yeah.
you can keep those two things in check, then you kind of get the best of both worlds. But I remember about the same time I was running, there was another gal that I knew, and we were at some church, whatever, and she passed up these really delicious treats. And she said, I'm training right now. And the habits and the choices that you make reinforce who you want to be.
Hmm.
And so in that moment, she was declaring to herself and to all of us that eating that thing was not part of who she wanted and needed to be in order to accomplish the goal that she had set for herself.
Hmm.
And sometimes we lose sight of the fact that the goal that we've created and the outcome we want has certain steps in order to achieve them.
Mm-hmm.
And the timeline is really dependent on you. Do you want to reach that goal in 2 years or do you want to reach it in 2 months? Because the
Mm-hmm.
steps that you will take are going to be different. But at the
Yeah.
same time, let's say it's over 2 years, that is a lot more time to really hone in on the habits that will get you there and will keep you going there longer.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess with this idea of identity, right? Reclaiming that or owning up to identity in order to change habit behavior. Um, my internal wrestle is um, what if there's always going to be part of me that doesn't want to change identity? Or how do I know if it does align with who I am or who I want to be in order to achieve a goal? Because there's so many people out there like running marathons and I don't know if that's for me. And is that because I'm just a little bit lazy? I need to work through the natural woman in me in order to achieve that? Or is that because it doesn't align with my values? And maybe this is me cycling in my head trying to solve it before I just try it.
I, you can feel a different pull on your heart when something is meant for you and when something's not. Where, maybe running a marathon isn't it? It doesn't give you the same signal. And so I think part of that
Mm,
is like really learning how to lean into your what is coming my way that I can recognize and see is for me, and then what's coming in and I know that's not for me. I'm going to give you another example that's kind of, maybe it's bizarre and maybe it won't make. So here's an example of how things have shown up in my life. And I was at the airport and I saw this woman carrying a big tote bag. And I had never seen a bag like this before.
mm,
And I really liked it. And so I was walking kind of close behind her so I could see what brand it was. And I thought, oh, that is so cute. And then I didn't think anything. A week later, I see a very similar bag. It's the same brand bag. It's in a different color and it's in a different size. And I'm like, wow, I really like that bag. And so when things come up multiple times, I pay attention. And so
mm-hmm.
my birthday was coming up, and I told my husband, I said, you know what? I have seen this bag twice, and I really like that bag. I would love to have that bag. And so that's what I got for my birthday that year. And it is an amazing bag. And I use it all of the time, and I absolutely love it. But I never would have known it was for me if I hadn't seen it somewhere first. And so often when we're
Mm,
paying attention to the things around us, we can pay attention to the things that spark something in us and take note. And if it
Yeah.
shows up more than once, that's a pretty good sign that that's meant for you. And it didn't come with any type of obligation like, oh, everybody has that bag. You should get that bag. It wasn't one of those things. It was like,
Yeah.
I haven't seen this before. It was very unique. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I really love this. And then
Yeah.
I paid attention the second.
You've shared this story in a time where I was like, I don't know what I want anymore. I don't know what my desires are, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
just like what we've been talking about, how it's just so easy to just kind of exit from the orbit of your own life in order to keep things going out of a survival habit. Um, because if we aren't honoring or acting upon the things that we want or desire, or like the things that just make our heart kind of flutter, um, then we're going to stop receiving them. And I think it's really easy in this phase of life, for me at least, to put them on the back burner because I'm like, well, that doesn't work with our time and season. Our rental is pet free, so we can't get that dog that I wanted my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Or I just would love like a little bit of a garden that I can grow for more than 2 years, you know? And it's like, not the time and season. So I have this habit of backburning almost every desire that kind of comes to
Mm-hmm.
my heart. And with help, there's creativity to gain the skills in this period of training where when the opportunity does open up, I'm ready to receive that desire more fully.
Oh, I love that. And it kind of hurts my heart just a little bit to hear you say that. It's like, you can grow a garden in 2 years. Like sometimes it's not about
Yeah,
the thing, it's about the thing under the thing. And
right.
so you saying that, it's like, it's not about how much produce can I grow in the garden. It's about,
Mm,
I'm going to be outside doing the thing that I love. And whether I get to enjoy it for a month, a year, 2 years, and that's the end, I was able to enjoy it and it served its purpose for that time.
yeah. And what's specific to my garden, I live in the same neighborhood as someone I go to church with. And I think they've lived here for 30 years and just have this beautiful kind of cottagey type garden. And I was just admiring all of their blooms. I currently, this year, I started plants from seed for the first time, and some of those plants are blooming right now. But, most of them are like the one stem and the one bud, and not like a big bushel of
Yeah.
flowers. And I just had this thought of like, I can't compare gardens. They've been here for 30 years. They've been deeply rooted, they like physically in their garden,
Hmm.
their plants have been rooted, and mine have just started, and I have to be able to accept and be willing to see my budding garden for what it is, accept that like offering, accept my work as the best that I can do in the time that I'm allotted. Sometimes I can get so big in my ideas that I'm like, well, this doesn't count. It's not big enough. It's not actually what I want for my end result, but it's that baby step in helping me to get there.
I love that you brought up that gardener because what you've identified as your neighbor, that person is a gardener.
Yeah.
They are doing all of the things. They have a 30-year history of doing all of the little things, all of the weeding, all of the
Mm-hmm.
planting, all of the reading, all of the learning so that they could then become. But that is the process of becoming. It's like, how do I become a gardener? I start living like a gardener. I'm in my
Mm.
garden. I'm doing the weeding. I'm doing the planting. I'm doing all of the things, the dirty work. I'm in there
Literally.
doing it every day, every day. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I become a gardener. I won't become a gardener in a week. I won't
Yeah.
become a gardener in 2 weeks. But every day that I show up, I am learning how to be a gardener. And then
Mm-hmm.
you won't even notice when it happens. It's like, I am a gardener.
Yeah. So true.
Okay, let's circle back around.
Yeah, I was actually going to suggest the same thing.
Okay, good. Let's talk about reclaiming identity. And this is not about swinging the pendulum to selfishness after a life
Mm-hmm.
of feeling like you've been serving somebody else's dreams and desire. It's more about stewardship and taking yourself into the equation. And the best way to show up as a true partner is not by vanishing and eliminating all of your needs and desires, but by anchoring.
Mm. I love that. So, practically, how do we start anchoring back into who we are?
Yeah. So you start really small. And again, this is a concept that we're going to talk about in the next couple of episodes as we start building on this framework of how to create a habit. But I would start by
Mm-hmm.
asking, what did I used to love to do before this season in my life? Or what do I need today to feel more like myself? You build rituals around that. And that's what we call
Mm.
identity anchors. And these are just the small habits that reinforce who you want to be, not just who the world has told you you are or who you've thought you have been.
Yeah. I have like so many feelings today. We kind of started and I
I
was like,
know.
I'm like deeply feeling today, but
Right.
um
Where we
I'm in a good place for that. It's so easy for me to feel like I still don't know who I am.
mm,
Maybe since motherhood has begun, I've just like lost that identity. Easy for me to identify maybe what it was before. I think before it was just achieving. I loved achieving, excelling in the sport I was playing my whole life, or graduating and getting degrees, or getting the next job. But right now I'm in a phase where I've chosen to spend my time in unpaid work. I love being at the crossroads with my kids, both ends of the day. Um, so it's hard for me when I'm like, what are my identity anchors? Um,
mm.
while also taking care of everyone else's needs. I'm just circling.
Yeah. Well, here's the good news. If you have these questions, then everybody has these questions. And so we'll come back to those. I want to just bring to your attention, I still don't know who I am.
Hmm.
Um, Whenever I hear somebody say that they don't know, I always get really curious about, I wonder what's going on. Because sometimes we can use I don't know as a way to not find out. It's
Yeah.
like this little protection mechanism. Like if I say I don't know, then I don't have to actually do anything. I can just kind of
Mm.
sit here and be like, I would do something, but I don't know. And therefore, I'm going to not do anything.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like this free pass that we can throw around that
Mm.
keeps us stuck. So there's that piece. And then the other piece is you do know who you are.
Hmm.
And you just told us. It's like, I like the feeling of achievement. I like the feeling of being my best and having a challenge. And so we can take those elements and we can apply them to your situation right now
Hmm.
without you having to drastically change anything about the circumstances of your life. And
Hmm.
so we could even apply this in a sense to this podcast. You are challenging yourself, you are doing something new, you are achieving results. We actually have people who listen to this podcast, Katie.
We do. Analytics tell
Right.
us so.
Yes. So, I mean, that is an achievement. And so we
Hmm.
can find ways to incorporate those things of who you know you are and the things that feed your soul. You can find ways to get those in this stage of life that looks different than the way you would have done them in high school or in college or during your professorship. Like, there's a way to still harness that. I'm
Hmm.
going to tell you another story. We're doing lots of stories today. I remember when my husband was inducted to be a fellow of the College of Surgeons. I went with him to this event and it's this amazing, it's like graduation again because they still wear the regalia and they get hooded and it's
Hmm.
like a big deal. And it was in a different state. Our kids weren't with us, so it was just me and I'd spent time with my husband and I'm at this event and I see these people walking across the stage and I feel this like little pang in my heart. Like,
Hmm.
should I go to school? Like, what is this about? Like, what is
Hmm.
this that I'm feeling sitting here watching all of this happen?
Hmm.
And it was just this moment where I was like trying to pay attention. I really don't think going to medical school is what this is telling me. I
Hmm.
don't really have a desire to do that, but there's something happening right here at this event that is speaking to me, and I've got to figure out what this is. But it was the most beautiful thing. And so, I mean, that was, I can't remember how many years ago, but it was part of the impetus for like being a little more vocal and being present in this
Hmm.
community and stepping up and kind of taking a role that nobody gave me, but that I just decided I wanted to participate in. And so I think our
Hmm.
life will continue to give us these little moments of insight, and it's how we interpret them. There's something in those experiences when they speak to your heart that are trying to tell you what is in it for you and where you should go. And following those little things all along the line have made such a difference in my life, in my mental health, in my ability to show
Mm,
up for my family, to be able to take care of things, and to kind of weather some really tough life situations and life storms.
yeah.
So, again, we've talked about that before, paying attention to that. This whole journey we're on, this is not just about your partner and him becoming a doctor at the end of the day. This is a process that you're involved in because at the end of the day, you're going to be somebody. And is it going to
Hmm.
be somebody that you like and somebody that you're proud of or not?
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Oh, man. Kendra, that was so beautiful. A real call to action, right? We can choose to waste the time during training or early career or just the rest of your life being support, or there's a different option. And I love the examples that you just shared of how you've modeled this and how it's shown up for you, what it's felt like as you're receiving these, messages, pings in your heart of what your future identity might look like or really where your desire is leading you. So, thank you so much. So, how do we make sure that we are living a life that we're proud of and that we like?
Okay. Let's kind of maybe start with this supposition
Okay.
that when you decide who it is you want to be, and let's use the I want to be somebody who is proud of herself at the end of my partner's residency, not because I survived and we're all still alive, but because of the person that I became as a result of it. And so I think that single kind of declaration, like planting that flag, like I am going to be somebody that I'm proud of at the end of this, starts to change your identity, which in turn supports the
Mm,
habit that you are trying to create. And that becomes a positive feedback loop. And once it starts clicking, you can realize that I can support my partner and I can still show up for myself, and it's not a competition. So they reinforce themselves. When you tell
mm,
yourself, I'm someone who is proud of herself, I'm someone who keeps her promises to herself, I'm somebody who follows through, and then you do, and maybe it's something small like it's brushing your teeth before bed or it's drinking more water. That
yeah.
is a vote for your identity. And so every day, when you look at the
Mm,
things that you do, and sometimes it's getting started is the hardest part. If you have to write sticky notes, if you have to write it on your arm, what it is, the identity you're trying to create, and then every decision you're faced with, if you're looking at that and stopping yourself to pause and ask yourself, is the thing I'm doing right now, is that reinforcing the identity that I want to have? So
yeah.
we have to also be willing to do that and to be willing to say, I'm not going to do it perfectly, but even if I did it 90% of the time, if I chose this identity, that's so much better than saying, I just can't do it. And so therefore, I'm not going to. I'll
Mm-hmm.
just be who I am. There isn't
Yeah.
room for shame in this process. Like, who you want to be is going to be reflected in the choices that you make every day, the way that you entertain yourself, the way that you feed yourself. All of those things are choices that will either help reinforce the identity you want to create or will keep you stuck in an identity that you may not want. I'm not one for criticizing yourself or shaming yourself again, but
Mm-hmm.
if there's
Mm-hmm.
something that you want, the only reason you don't have it right now is because you are not believing that you are capable of becoming that person.
Sure. Yeah. Or getting curious about the X percent of you who does want to stay in that habit, right?
Mhm.
I think all of us kind of have something inside of you wants it, and it's like, but is that the wolf we want to feed, or is it something else we're trying to
Mm.
grow into? One other way that we know that we are engaging in a good work is staying really open, like heart centered, open to the way we feel as we engage in it. So I've mentioned that lately I've been riding my bike to church or to a neighbor's house. And it's amazing how, in that moment, I'm really using it as transportation, not necessarily for my 30 minutes of exercise that day, but I feel great. I have the wind in my hair. I have that little bit of huffing and puffing in my lungs, and I'm connecting with my family around me. Um, and so that's my clue that this is important for me and this is part of the identity that's feeding my soul.
Well, I think we can use that in the current tense. You are a person
True.
who not only values but lives that value. You love moving. Every time I see a picture of you and your family, it's outside.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
there are outside people and there are inside people.
It's true.
You are an outside person. You are constantly moving. So I would say that's already part of your identity, but I'm
Mm.
curious, like, is there an identity that you want that you don't have yet?
Um, let's see. I think honestly, the identity that I want is someone who feels really satisfied or accepting of their day to day life. Someone who loves the weeds in their life and the blooms, right? Not just someone who wants something perfect. I don't want to chalk it up all to the journey, but there's so much in like, well, in 2 years we do this, in 2 years we do this. And we're kind of at the end of the training
Mhm.
journey where it's like, oh, suddenly we don't have to keep looking ahead in order to achieve this goal that we've been working toward. Um, so being really present in the now and feeling really satisfied with it, like it is enough.
Okay, while you were talking, I wrote down a couple of words, and so
Mm,
you tell me if I've got the
okay.
words right. You got
Mm-hmm.
present, accepting, and then I don't know if you said this word, but it came to my mind, and so I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Contentment. Is there another word we should add to that to kind of encapsulate?
No, I think that encapsulates an identity that I seek. I think it's in me, but I don't accept it. I don't let it um, rule my thoughts or my actions. Does that make sense? Like it's small in me.
So are you saying it's a
No, or
wish?
like
It's a seed
it's a
that's been
seed that's
planted,
been
but not.
planted but not habit. I guess my reflex is to feel like we don't have enough or I'm not enough. And does that make
Okay.
sense? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure does because your brain is like, "Oh, dang, that's going to be really hard to be somebody who accepts all
Mm,
of this and is content with this and is accepting of all of this." And so it makes perfect sense that it's like, "Yeah, there's a lot of obstacles to doing this, so
yeah.
let's not." I'm going to say we're going to do a little cliffhanger because I think this is going to be a great place to
Okay.
pick up next week. Because next week, our topic is going to be about how we can begin with the end in mind. And so maybe we can use this same example and we'll pick that up next week and we'll talk specifically about how you can take that identity that you would like to
Mm,
have of being somebody who's present and accepting and content with life, regardless of what is happening in life. And then we can talk about how you can build that out. What do you think?
oh, I love that. So, this week we want to leave you with a reflection question. Here it is. What kind of woman are you becoming through the habits you practice? Think about that for a little bit. And are those habits aligned with someone you're proud to be?
And if not, that's okay. You're not behind. You're just at the start of a new chapter. The beautiful thing is, you can begin to shape your identity today with one simple vote for the version of you that you want to grow into.
Oh, so, just as Kendra was so compassionate today, I want you to be able to pour that compassion onto yourself too. You matter, not just for what you do for others, but because of who you are. And let's make our habits reflect that.
If today's episode resonated with you, would you send it to another physician spouse who needs to hear this? You could also reach us on Instagram at Supporting Physician Spouses or email us at hello@supportingphysicianspouses.com.
And cherry on top, we'd love for you to take a moment and rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts. It helps more physician spouses find us, and it means so much that you would help us build this community.
And be sure to join us next time as we dive into the idea of beginning with the end in mind. Who do you want to be at the end of medical school, at the end of residency, 5 years after done with training? The future version of you is being shaped by today's choices, and we're going to help you build that vision.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.